Hello and welcome to Inside the Rails, a monthly podcast for horse racing enthusiasts everywhere. And we're sponsored by the RSA, the Racehorse Syndicates Association, so a big thank you to them as ever. And also as ever, I'm joined by my co-host Phil Boyle from BG Racing. How are you, Phil? Did you enjoy Royal Ascot? And tell me, was it smoked salmon and caviar for Mr. and Mrs. Boyle come Saturday night? Or was the Boyle cupboard bare?
Hi, Simon. Yes, I'm very well. I did enjoy Royal Ascot. It went surprisingly well. I seem to find a decent price winner every day and a few big price place horses as well.
Wow.
I made a small loss on Tuesday and Friday, bigger profits on the other 3 days. Profitable week. And I'm not a fan of caviar, but I must admit I did throw an extra dish onto the Chinese takeaway order this week.
You clearly spoil Mrs. Boyle. It sounds like you had a better Royal Ascot punting wise than I did, but we'll come on to a review of Royal Ascot. It really is a fabulous race meeting. Great to see crowds back. I just wondered, last month's podcast, when we had the director of Dream Horse, Eros Lynn, on, what was the feedback we got from that podcast, Phil?
It was good. I had several people sort of come up to me to say that they hadn't heard about the film and that they were looking forward to going to see it. But also, a couple of them had noticed something that I was hoping that they wouldn't spot. So, as you will be aware, you and I recorded the pre-interview piece the day before the interview because I wasn't able to join you for the interview as I was out with my wife that day. And I thought I'd got away with it. I thought everyone would just think I was sitting in the background quietly. But I happened to mention to a friend, I said, we interviewed the director of that movie in the podcast last month. And he said, we interviewed him, did we? Okay. So clearly, there you go. That's lifted the curtain on how we sometimes do these things. I hoped I'd get away with it, but I didn't. But it's great to know we are being listened to, and more listeners would also be great. So if anybody listening now is enjoying the previous episodes or enjoys this one, please follow us and tell your friends, and let's grow the listenership of Inside the Rails as we go forward.
And we've got a very special guest on, haven't we, Phil?
We have, yeah. This month's guest is Debbie Hay from Taking The Reins, which is a charity that provides youngsters with opportunities to get into horse racing. And as compensation for last month's interview where I didn't participate at all, Simon's actually letting me lead this month, aren't you?
I thought I'd take 10 minutes snooze, yes. No, I will be around. Unlike Phil, listeners, I will actually be here for this one. But anyway, on to serious matters. The last time we spoke, you'd had a winner. I think we both had a winner, actually. What have you been up to racing-wise, Phil? And what's the racing experience been for you and your owners during the last month?
I've been racing twice. Been to Chepstow, been to Uttoxeter. The atmosphere is getting better every time I go racing. There was good owner hospitality. And with more spectators there, it's definitely a more sort of enjoyable afternoon. But obviously, as the experience gets better, more people will want to go, particularly in syndicate ownership. And it would be good to see courses starting to be very flexible with their badge allocations. It was a bit of a shame when we went to Chepstow. They were limiting the number of owners' badges, which was absolutely fine and understandable. But at the end of the afternoon, they were trying to give away food. And I couldn't help but think that, it might have been easier to have given away a few extra badges and had other people eating the food rather than people that were there taking it away. But yeah, much better than it has been in the past. And let's hope it carries on sort of going forwards.
Now, look, you and I both know that owning a racehorse can definitely be a roller coaster ride. Phil, I believe you've had a couple of slight disappointments recently. We don't want to sugarcoat this. We know that owning racehorses and syndicates are really exciting, but there can be one or two hiccups along the way.
Yeah, absolutely. Ups and downs it is. And you savour the ups a lot more because of the downs. Yeah, both of our 2 racecourse visits this month were a little bit disappointing. The day I mentioned at Chepstow, we didn't actually have a runner as our horse managed to knock herself in the box on the way down, and she cut her face. It's not too serious. She'll be back racing soon, but she was unable to race on that day. Obviously, she'd obviously given her head a bang, and you don't want to be giving them a race after that. And then when we went to Uttoxeter, we had a slightly worse run than we were expecting from our horse there. But we got some great feedback from our jockey. Jamie Moore rode for us that day.
Okay.
And he provided some really good feedback afterwards. He travelled all the way up to Uttoxeter just to ride the one horse for us, which we were very grateful for. And he gave us some really useful information for the future. I understand you've also had a Jamie in the saddle this month.
I have indeed. Yeah, I had the pleasure, really, of having Jamie Spencer ride Dancing in the Woods at Nottingham. Now, we booked Jamie because he's a master, isn't he, of holding up horses. He's, coming from behind, nobody better than Jamie. And Dancing in the Woods is a horse who needs covering up. We went to Nottingham because we thought it's a flat track, which is what he needs. There were only 7 runners. He ran a fine race. He was third. The winner, One Night Stand, very well handicapped, won by over 4 lengths. But we were only pipped for second place by a neck. And Jamie came in afterwards and he said, now, a lot of people think Nottingham is a straight course. He said it is, but there are undulations there. And he said for a hold-up horse, you get behind a horse, you can't actually see the undulations. And by the time you get there, you become unbalanced. And indeed, Dancing in the Woods did become unbalanced. I'm not sure that we'd have beaten the winner, but he gave a really good insight. And he suggested other tracks that we might go to, tracks like Doncaster and Newmarket, 2 tracks, fun enough, where he's run very well before. But I thought it was really good insight. And I'd thought Nottingham was a straight course. And he gave that extra jockey input, which wouldn't have occurred to me. So I suppose the moral of this tale is, if you want good feedback, hire a Jamie.
Absolutely. I think we should be scouring through the jockey lists and focusing on all the Jamies that are in there.
Now, the Inside the Rails podcasts are about creating awareness of syndicate opportunities, racing club opportunities, how to get involved. And we're obviously keen, Phil and I, to promote syndication. Of course, now and again, you'll get the odd claim about syndicates being poorly run, and there has been, I hasten to add, the odd 1 or 2 recently. But certainly in my 27 years' experience in syndication, that is not the norm. Syndicates are very well run. And Phil, I wondered whether you had any thoughts on this.
Yeah, I do, yeah. Syndicates obviously come in all shapes and sizes, all different costs, all different levels of ownership. And the vast majority, in my experience, are run in line with the syndicate's code of conduct, and those that aren't, the BHA are very happy to take action against. And yeah, if any individual out there is concerned about the costs or the way that the syndicate is run, they shouldn't be afraid to ask. It's fair to say some syndicates do charge more than others in terms of their admin fees. Some provide different benefits, but all good syndicators are going to be completely transparent on those. And it's also worth mentioning that all members of the Racehorse Syndicates Association are required to comply with the Code of Conduct. So whilst Racehorse Syndicates Association membership is not a prerequisite of a well-run syndicate or racing club, it probably wouldn't be a bad starting point. But anyway, enough about syndicates. Let's get back to the racing, and I'm going to grab the reins, pun fully intended, to turn the conversation to Royal Ascot, because obviously I know you're a massive fan of the Royal Meeting. So how was it for you? What were your highlights?
Well, for me, it's not just the best flat meeting in the world. You can keep your Cheltenhams. No, I love Cheltenham, really. But for me, it's the best race meeting in the world. And it was absolutely fabulous to have crowds back. What was it? In the region of 12,000 each day, I think. I don't think they actually quite reached capacity, but I think that was to do with the various protocols involved, of the flow tests and all of that they had to do. But let's actually get on to Royal Ascot. One of the things Ed Chamberlain picked out from ITV was that he was talking about spreading the love this year in terms of more jockeys and more trainers seem to be winning races rather than being the sort of, the same names cropping up. And I thought that certainly seemed to be the case. But I thought I'd do a bit of research and compare last year with this year. It's not quite like for like, because we had 35 races this year and 36 last year. But you know what? There was a difference. So last year we had 36 races being won by 17 different jockeys. This year we had 35 races being ridden by 24 different jockeys. In terms of trainers, normally it's Aidan O'Brien and the Gosdens. It was 20 different trainers last year, 26 this year. You know me, Phil, I like a few stats. In terms of favourites, 9 favourites went in both years. So slightly below. You're looking at 25-26%, whereas normally it's 1 in 3 favourites throughout a year.
I was just going to say, yeah, your stats were very interesting, and they did support my own viewing of the meeting, which is I didn't see as many interviews with Aidan O'Brien this year. That was definitely noticeable. They nearly always seem to be interviewing him at Royal Ascot. So yeah, plenty of other winners. Which ones were your personal highlight?
Okay, well, I'll give some brief highlights for each of the 5 days. Look, I thought day one, there were 2 really for me, Poetic Flare and Oxted. I mean, what a tough horse Poetic Flare is. He's running 4 Group 1s, including 3 guineas, the English guineas, which he won, the French and the Irish, and then the Group 1 that he won at St James Palace. 4 races within the space of about 6 weeks. Still went off favourite and won easily. But I must admit, I didn't back him, but I thought that was what a tough horse he is. I think Matt Chapman likened him to the new Iron Horse. Remember, Giant's Causeway was known as the Iron Horse. The other highlight on day one for me was Kieran Fallon's whip waving. Lovely to see him win on Oxted, winning the King's Stand Stakes. He was back on board, couldn't ride previously. There was one ride he gave up, wasn't there, Phil, because he actually wasn't feeling too good, which was very magnanimous. So it's lovely to see him back on. Day 2, you talk about Aidan O'Brien. Of course, he couldn't go the whole meeting without having a winner. He had 2 in the end. I thought Love was very impressive, winning the Prince of Wales Stakes. Hadn't run for an awfully long time. But you've got to give a big special mention to James Fanshaw's Audaria. You know, she hadn't run for a long time either. So I think there are more Group 1s to be won with her. Day 3, look, jockeys, they're not known, are they, for being over-emotional, but you have to say Paul Hannigan, he was, I think, fighting back the odd tear, really, when he won the Norfolk Stakes on Perfect Power. This is a guy who broke 3 vertebrae last year, and it was very, very up in the air as to whether he'd ever ride again. He did actually go on to win his 2000th winner in the summer of last year, but he was clearly very emotional. And look, again, whether you backed the horse or not, it was lovely to see Paul in the winner's enclosure at Royal Ascot. Day 4, well, we had the drama, didn't we, of a steward's inquiry with Frankie winning it in the steward's room on Wesley Ward's Campanelli. Poor old Oisin Murphy lost out on Dragon Symbol. What were your thoughts on that, Phil? When it was announced, did you think it would be overturned?
Yeah, I must admit, I watching the race, I don't see that the stewards could have done a lot different, really. The horses finished so close, and they obviously did roll across the track together. It was obviously Oisin's horse that was doing the damage, as it were, was carrying Frankie's horse across. And there's an argument to say that the best horse still passed the post first, but just the rules are, that if there is interference, and there was, the placings have to be reversed. So I think the stewards got it right for me.
Yeah, I'd agree with that. I think the fact that the winning distance was just ahead, and I think 2, possibly 3 times Frankie's horse was carried across the track, I think it was always likely that it was going to be overturned. But of course, neither the winner doesn't really want to win it in the steward's room like that. But obviously, Frankie being Frankie, he's going to take it, isn't he?
Absolutely, yeah, for sure.
Look, day 5, culmination of the fabulous 5-day meeting. Look, it was nice, not only just because I had a couple of quid on, but Dream of Dreams for Sir Michael Stout. Again, he's a trainer who doesn't normally leave the meeting empty-handed. But the winner of the Diamond Jubilee Stakes had been second the last 2 years. I don't think anybody would have begrudged Dream of Dreams winning the Diamond Jubilee. And I had a sneaky feeling it might be Ryan Moore's day. He had 3 winners that day. I had actually backed him to be champion jockey, because I really thought, champion jockey for the week, that is. I thought it was going to be between Frankie and Ryan, but that was another highlight for me, going right to the wire, wasn't it? And Oisin Murphy actually pipped it with 5 wins. So, no, look, for me, it was an absolute fabulous meeting. I think the other important thing to say was it's racing's showcase. It's one of the pilot events that are trying to demonstrate to the government that we can deal with the protocols of COVID. And I think racing did an absolutely splendid job. Do you? And what were your highlights, Phil?
Yeah, I thought the meeting was brilliant. Yeah, my highlights were probably all my winning bets, to be honest.
Now I know you had a couple of nice touches, and I'm also dying to know, how did you get on in the 6:10 on Friday? A race you have a special affection for, I believe.
Yeah, I only got special affection for it because I won the 610 on Wednesday and Thursday, so I was looking forward to Friday. Yeah, I had the winners of the 610, Lola Showgirl and Highfield Princess, both at nice prices on Wednesday and Thursday, and 4 of my bets were running on Friday.